You found a spot of shade, buddy. Hey. Oh, I don't blame you. I bet the tiles are nice and cool too, aren't they? Oh. Snooze well, little fella. Snooze well. Oh, bless him. Okay. Oh, let's get on with things. Hello, lovely people. Oh, Rusty, I don't blame him. It's scorchio. It's even hotter than yesterday. So, I know I've got the same top on, so it's a bit confusing. I think we wash our clothes too often. I don't smell. No, I don't smell. So, yesterday was the day when I was doing my calendula harvest, a few other bits and bobs, a mammoth watering session that, I don't know, it went on for about an hour and a half in the end, because where I would normally give 1 can of water, I was giving 2 cans. Really, we've dried out so much in the last 2 weeks. Anyway, and then, of course, I had my little Prosecco in the shed session, which was delightful. So, look, it's so bright there. I need to block, the camera's struggling. Maybe, let's put you over there. Let's put baby in the corner. That's better. It was really, gosh, it was such a nice, we've got a jellycopter. It made such, that's low. Who is that? Oh, it's Helimed. You know, whenever I see Helimed, that's our air ambulance service, my heart always sinks, because if Helimed has been scrambled, it's bad. But on the other hand, at least, you know, thank goodness we have that. We have them. Oh, it's going quite far. The park next to my allotment, you've seen me walking through a few times, dripping already. That's often used as a landing place for Helimed, because there is that main road that I live on. It's a bit of a ways to the park, but if there's a really horrible RTA, that's their closest and safest place to land. And even in the time that it might take to stretcher someone from the main road to Helimed, it'll be quicker doing that, go off in a helicopter, than it would be to take someone by road ambulance. Anyway, digression. Oh, I hope whoever needs that is going to be okay. Where was I? Yes, it's just so hot. It's crazy hot for September. I mean, we often have these lovely, warm, balmy, mellow September days. And although I'm definitely a summer girl, I think September, outside of summer, I think September is one of my favourite months of the year, because it's still warm, we've still got a bit of light in the evening. I still feel like I've got 1 foot in summer still. The garden's still productive, there's still loads to do. Yeah, it is a really, really gorgeous month. But this is a bit too hot. I don't know what the actual temperature is. I mean, it's got to be over 30. It feels like over 30. I checked the thermometer in the shed. It's in the high 30s now. So you guys, in Fahrenheit, it's around about 95 F in the shed. It's so funny, just showing you Rusty, he's just tucked between me and the girls' shed, and they've got those little bits of tile at the edge of their shed, and it's in shade it's in shade pretty much all day down there. So I'm just thinking those tiles must feel cool. And then he's in the shade, and there's a gorgeous breeze blowing. When I arrived, he did his usual thing of, the minute I put my key in the shed door, he's getting his face to the door before I've even properly opened it. So he did his usual thing, comes in the shed, jumps up onto the bed, looks at me as if to say, "Rub my ears, Vivi." I was just putting my bag down and went with my hand to reach out to give him a little ear rub, and it was like he suddenly went, "Crikey, it's hot in here," boom, shot out. down the side of the sheds there. Bless him. I'll give him a cuddle later, but I don't want to make him any hotter. So yeah. Now, the thing is, it's a bit too hot to be doing any work. I know, I said it in the other video the other day, I know there's a load of you who have it much hotter than us, but please remember, if you get overly hot in the garden, you go back indoors to an air-conditioned home, most of you. We don't. We get hot in the garden and then we go home and the house is even hotter. So it's a bit hot for doing anything too physical. It's perfect for sitting outside the shed with friends and drinking Prosecco. Perfect for that. Where I've got a little bit of dappled shade out there and this gorgeous wisping breeze that's coming through. So, not ideal for gardening. However, this morning, it's dripping already. I heard on the grapevine and then checked for myself. I went to look at the weather forecast. Now, I knew this little heat wave, which sort of started Saturday afternoon. Glorious, all day Sunday, Monday. It's now Wednesday. Yeah, it's Wednesday today. You won't be seeing this for a few days. But yeah, I knew it was only going to be sort of 4 or 5 days. Make the most of it. Rejig your schedule, which I've done. Originally I'd seen some black clouds on the forecast for Thursday. So I thought, fine, I will do indoor stuff on Thursday. I've got loads of stuff to do for the shop. I've always got stuff to do. Great. I'll make the most of garden time. Didn't realise it's going to be this hot. But what I hadn't spotted, and I have now, is that it looks like from 7 or 8 o'clock this evening, right through till the early hours, till probably 7 or 8 tomorrow morning, we are forecast thunderbolts and lightning and rain. Oh, I hope it's a good one. A safe one. You know, I know storms can cause damage. Let's hope it's one of those great storms to listen to and watch, but that doesn't cause any damage. So because of that, I never get straight to the point. Because of that, I decided, oh my goodness, most of the garden, fine, but there's one thing I really, really want to get harvested before any rain comes. Fact is, the forecasting has been awful. It's been just absolutely rubbish forecasting. So just as I was arriving now, my friend Bonnie was leaving. That's the other thing I should say about today. I will come back to the point. There was stuff I had to do indoors this morning. It's now getting on for 1:30 in the afternoon. We're heading into the hottest part of the day. Stupid. But yeah, as I was arriving, Bonnie was leaving, and she's basically saying, "You're mad." And I said, "I know, but I need to get this harvest done before the rain tonight." And she said, "Oh, are we having rain?" So I told her about the forecast, and we both agreed that it probably won't happen. But in case it does, coming back to my original point, I want to harvest my lavender today. It'll take a chunk of time. Oh, it's going to be gorgeous. I don't know though, with this heat and the smell of lavender, I might have to take my phone out there with me and set an alarm on it in case I end up in the lavender bed asleep. Now the other thing is, and I'm not going to be able to do it today, but bumped into my friend Gary the other day, who's got a really long hedge of lavender. It's beautiful. He likes to grow it purely for how it looks and for all, you know, how much the bees and the butterflies love it. But he doesn't ever do anything with the lavender. And in previous years, he's kind of basically cut it all off and composted it. But if you remember last year, he invited me to help myself to some of his harvest. My way of saying thank you for that was to, yes, harvest it, but to prune all his bushes into a really nice shape. So he's just said to me a few days ago, I can do the same this year. So I can get a lovely big harvest from his hedge, and my way of thanking him for the harvest is spend 2 or 3 hours pruning the whole hedge, keeping it, you know, giving it a good shape, because some of the plants he'd only put in about 3 years ago to plug gaps, and they were real little stragglers. So as you looked at this sort of long border of them, they were sort of a bit sort of dotted off centre or whatever. But in pruning them, it sort of managed to make them be like one long strip of plants. They look great. So that's great, but not today. So I think what I'll have to do is, whether this rain comes tonight or not, we've been forecast a bit of rain Thursday, a bit of rain Friday, but then another run of dry days for a whole week. So if we do get all this rain, leave Gary's lavender, leave it alone Saturday, Sunday, Monday even, and then next Tuesday come back and do it then, because it will have had 3-4 dry days by then, and if we keep getting these breezes, that will help to dry it too. But shut up, Vivi, I'm delaying because I don't want to go out there into the bright sunshine. I love it, but not for working in. Right, I need to get my gear together. Let's get out there and commune with the lavender a little. Crikey, I can't get over this weather. Oh, it's so hot, it's bursting hot. Okay, so let's get stuck in. I'll bring you in closer in a second. Oops, to show you what I'm doing. Little random. Oh, it's too far. I've put my bucket too far away. Let's hook it with the secateurs. A little bucket for any bits of grass or bindweed. For now, the harvest is going in my big orange trug. It's not pretty. It's not photogenic. I won't win any Instagram prizes for it, but that's okay. I'm not on Instagram. Someone was asking me about that the other day. No, I'm not on Instagram. I have enough trouble keeping up with Facebook and YouTube. So, to be honest, when I do my harvest, there's not a huge amount of finesse about it. If you only have one bush, one little plant, you could be way more finesse and just harvest one stalk at a time. But, like I said, I'm not that finesse because there's a lot to harvest here. So, and lots of grass. This is why I trimmed the grass underneath the flowers on this path the other day, because I don't want to be sorting grass out all day. And to do it, I've got a big, wide, deep, it's actually an old shelf, and I kind of slot it under the lavender, tip it up, pushing the lavender back, and then I can get underneath to strim. I don't worry about strimming this path all through the summer, partly because in this little section here, that you can't see, I have clover. So as the lavender is blooming, so is the clover, and I really like to leave that for the bees because they love it. Right, let's away with all this grass a second. When I did that strim, it worked quite well, but what I didn't get to were the edges. Anyway, yeah, so I don't worry about strimming it through the summer because, as I say, there's clover in there, and the bees love it. They go nuts for it. So they get the lavender, the hyssop, the clover. It's funny, you know, when I started the herb bed, is it 3 years ago now? I think this is its third full year. I think I started it 3.5 years ago. Anyway. Oh, I had all sorts of ideas for it. This was going to be my medicine cabinet. Oh, a stiff breeze, it's lovely, but it's going to mess with sound. Yeah, this was going to be my medicine cabinet, la la la. But it quickly became apparent that the bees love it. The marjoram they go mad for, the thyme. So I thought to myself, you know what, Vivi? You're getting all the lovely lavender. Just leave everything else to the bees. Except, right at the far end by the cold frame is my little lovage. it's gradually getting a bit bigger. And the reason I planted that was so that if ever I have a year where my celery completely fails, I will use the lovage as a celery substitute. Works great. But yeah, otherwise, I leave this bed now, the whole bed, just for my lovely buzzing pollinator friends. And of course the butterflies. Was it last year or the year before? We had an absolutely fantastic summer for our peacock butterflies. Apparently, they go in a sort of a bit of a 10-year cycle. So that was obviously their 10th year. Masses of them. I would come to the garden in the morning and already, I could count 12, 14, 16 peacock butterflies all basking in the lavender and supping up all the nectar. Lovely. So yeah, I've given up my herb bed to the critters, but that's fine. So as I'm cutting, I'll bring you in, like I said, but basically I'm just grabbing a handful as close down to the pale sort of new growth as I can, having it off. I'm careful not to cut into brown wood, as we call it, because I won't get regrowth from the brown wood. So although I'm kind of about it, I'm still mindful of not cutting into the brown. And as I go, I'm ever so slightly shaping each bush, slightly dome. Looks nice. After having harvested, if I didn't like how it looked, if it looked all raggedy, and I had some spare time one day, of course I could come along later and give it a sort of a finer prune, shape it a bit better. But really, just by harvesting, it's pruning it. When I do Gary's, I may well be a little bit more careful and or finish the harvest and then go back along and shape it a bit more. Let me bring you in closer down here so you can see what I mean about my handfuls. Ooh. I've done half of the first plant and my plug is filling up nicely. When I do Gary's, as happened last year, I didn't use my tug to gather the harvest. I had to use my wheelbarrow. There was that much. Yeah, he's a good friend. Let me bring you in a little bit closer down here. Oh, what is that random? I've got a strawberry I had a strawberry in here before the lavender. It's trying to grow. Oh, bless you. If it's trying to grow, I'll let it. Here I am right at the bottom of the plant. You see, look, a little strawberry trying to grow. Bless it. So yeah, it's as simple as grabbing a handful and just getting it chopped out. When I was saying about neatening it up, you can see there's kind of quite a bit of dead wood in here. That I could, just go around and prune a bit later. But as I said, for the most part, I don't worry because life's too short. Gotcha. And just, as you can see, I'm just trying to be careful where I've got this new growth, not to cut into it too hard. Oh, it's a little bit tricky on this end. And before we know it, I'll have a nice little harvest again. I know it is a bit rough and ready, isn't it? But it does the job. So I'm gonna, oh goodness me, get on with this. Oh, can someone go and make me a nice long cold drink of something? Don't like iced tea. Sorry everybody who likes iced tea. Not a fan. Oh, a nice glass of homemade lemonade would go down a treat right now. Lemonade, emergency, please. Right, let me get on and show you when I've finished. Gosh, some of it is virtually dry already. I'm going to take this up back to the shed. I'll show you how I dry it. A bit of bindweed. Out you come. Gosh, this bed is going to look bare, isn't it? Especially once I take out that dead hyssop. Scorching. The smell. I have to move. I don't want to move. Let's do some pruning down here instead. Phew. I was just having a little shade and water break at the shed before I get back into the lavender. I thought I'd just show you something else that I'm getting on with sort of at the same time. So that's my lavender so far from the first 3 little bushes. 3 more to go. Yay, lovely harvest so far. Right, it's not what I want to show you. While I'm in there, let's see where I can be without my shadow. First things first, I must remember the insect drinking station. That's it. So the light's so tricky today because it's so either so bright or so shady. It's full of lavender seeds, as you can see. So I must give that a good clean out later on, because I don't think the insects want to drink lavender water. Just there, that's a little scabious, really lovely sort of bluey lilac, almost lavender colour actually. And I love having it there because it comes out every spring before the lavenders get going. So it's that first lovely hint of my favourite lavendery purpley blue in the garden each year. But as it goes over the lavender takes over. So it gets a bit tricky to deadhead, or, you know, to trim back. So that's what I've done today. You can see my bucket over there is overflowing now. So I've just cut it back to all these new bits of new growth. It'll be great. Next door to it, chamomile, I've just cut that back. And then, I don't know if you can make it out, that's what remains. That's the hyssop that had died. I've no idea why it died, but actually, I don't mind taking it out because you can see how it's kind of pushed into the lavender and stopped them developing. So, I don't know that I'll replace it, give those lavender space. It's actually, that's Helimed coming back across. Wow, that's about an hour since it flew over. Anyway, sorry, digression. So yeah, this is the hyssop that had, we're right in my shadow now, maybe it'll help us, that had died. And you can see, I mean, it's just snapped off. I was about to cut back a couple of bits to get to the lavender, and the whole thing is completely dead as a dodo. I've no idea why, because it gets exactly the same treatment as this massive sprawling one. They get the same kind of pruning at the same time of year. They get the same amount of water or lack of water. Yeah, so I'm going to leave that space, let the lavender bushes develop, and, you know, this hyssop's got more space now. I would like to do a little bit of deadheading on this side so I can get to my French lavender, but the rest of the flower heads I'll leave the seeds on those now for the birds. And the other thing I've just pulled out, whoopla, is this naughtiness. This is St. John's wort. I did plant a St. John's wort in the herb garden, but it's a bit of a thug. It can take over, so I decided, okay, I'll take it out, plant it somewhere else, but I obviously left a tiny bit of root. You can see this was all under the stones, under the brick pavers. Keeps coming back. So what I do, I'm going to bring you around this way. Light is so tricky today. That bit that I just showed you, all of that was coming up in the path here. And it's cute, it's pretty, I like it, it's green. I just don't want it to take over. So at about this time, I yank it all out. Now, this isn't a stepping stone, but I'm actually going to step here. It quite often comes through. Yeah, let me show you. Sorry, I need 4 pairs of hands. It's coming through this little bit of the path too. So I shall yank that out today as well. And, coming back this way. Oh, my seat's here, let me sit. You can see now as well where I can sort of get down to the edges. They're not trimmed. I might give them a trim later if I've got the energy after this heat. But while I am down here, getting under them all, any little annual weeds that have come up, now is my chance to have them out. Oh, crikey, it's hot though. It's one of those days where, okay, getting the lavender harvest, that is my primary job. But actually, when I sit still and a bit of breeze comes, it's such a delight. I'm tempted to stick around and maybe do a little bit of deadheading. Oh, little Rosie. Little Rosie's arrived, also looking for shade. It's hot, isn't it, Pusscat? Whew. Now, the bergamot, this one, I've never had one before. I mean, I've had this, I think it's this year, I think this is year 2. It didn't flower last year. It's my first year with flowers. So what I don't know is, now these flowers have gone over, are there any insects or birds perhaps that will enjoy the seed heads? If so, I shall leave them. If not, I may cut them back. But do you know what? I might leave them anyway, because it's nice, isn't it, to just have that little slight bit of height variation in the herb bed. especially now that all the lavender is disappearing. Oh, it suddenly looks so bare. But yeah, it's nice to have a little bit of height, and that's why I plonked the verbena right in there, and of course the tree lily. I don't know if you can hear. Can you hear the grasshoppers and the crickets chirruping? You know it's a hot day when you can hear grasshoppers and crickets. Right, that's enough of a break for me. Get this next run harvested. Yikes, I realise, as always, I've been yapping on a bit, so I better finish the video up here. Despite I haven't finished the harvest, I haven't hung them all up to dry. I am going to have a bit of a pruning session in the herb bed. Oh my goodness, if I can stand it out there. So just to say very quickly in terms of drying, my good old faithful paper bags have a bit of a gusset. Hang on. Got a bit of a gusset, so they're actually quite wide. And very simply, I'll take a bunch of lavender upside down so the flower heads are in the bottom, bit of string, then tied up and under the drying rack. Oh, that's it. I don't tie the lavender in bunches, I leave them all loose and separate, air circulation, etc, etc. And I'll leave them in here drying. Where are we? I don't know, it's about the 8th or 9th, 7th of September, I'm not sure. If the weather was continuing like this, I'd say they'll be dry in 3 weeks. But it's not going to carry on being like this. And the thing for me is, you know, it's not a process I want to hurry. It's not a process I want to introduce any sort of artificial heat and drying to. Just let them dry in their own. Oh, let's have my hat. I've got a sweaty hat head. Yeah, let them just do it in their own sweet time. And when they're ready, they'll all come home, and I will spend literally hours and hours and hours and hours processing them to strip the flowers from their stalks. Last year, I worked it out. I can't remember what it was. It was something astonishing, like 40 hours just stripping lavender. But great. It's a nice winter task, actually, if I'm curled up indoors watching a movie late at night. I'll say to myself, right, take one bag of lavender, strip it. So, nothing more complicated to it than that. Of course, you know, if you've only got a little, if you've only got a little bit of lavender, if you've only got, say, one plant that you're harvesting from, of course, gather them together in a bunch and maybe put a little bit of purple ribbon even to hang them by to dry, and they'll look gorgeous at home as they're drying. Beautiful thing to do. You know, even like if you've got a guest bedroom, something like that, what a lovely place to have them to dry. And then when you've got guests, unless they hate the smell of lavender, there are a few weirdos out there who don't like the smell of lavender. But yeah, otherwise, if you've got a massive harvest to do, like me, just chuck them in bags, honestly. Way less fiddle and faff. And the thing about doing it in the bags, of course, is as they're drying, some of them will drop. Catch them all in the bottom of the bag, not a single one wasted. Whereas if you were just hanging up the bunch in the pretty way, the chances are you will lose some. They will drop, you'll dust them, hoover them up, whatever. Anyway, I need to get back out there. At least get the English lavender finished, and then I think I may do, I think I'm in the mood for it, do the French lavender, and on that side where I was just showing you that hyssop that's really pushed over, prune that back. Oh, and the other thing to say just very quickly about having a lavender hedge, it was weird, this kind of popped up in my Facebook newsfeed this morning, how to plant a lavender hedge. Patience is important. Mine are planted about 18 inches apart, each plant, 18 inches to 2 feet. It would be very tempting, if you've just bought little new plants, it's very tempting to just cram them all in next to each other. Yes, it will give you an instant look, but you're doing yourself a disservice in the long run, because those plants, they're not going to grow well, they're going to suffer. You're not going to get, if you're wanting a big harvest, give the plants the space they need. So yeah, 18 inches apart, they will fill out, they will end up merging, as you've seen mine have done. Where I showed you that gap, the reason they haven't merged and filled in is because of that naughty hyssop. So I'm hoping that over the next couple of years that gap will now fill in. But yeah, just give them the space they need. Be patient. You know, when you first plant them, they're going to look a bit bitty and a bit straggly and a bit too far apart. The next year they'll start filling out a little, and you'll start to get an idea of how it's going to look eventually. And you'll get a harvest in your first year. And then hopefully by your second year, they should really have got going like mine have, and you'll really start to get good harvests then. Enough harvest chat, I need water. I need to finish this before I convince myself that there are shadier, cooler places to be than a garden on a 30-degree afternoon at whatever time it is. Oh my goodness, 2:30 already. Alright lovely, so I'm going to say cheerio to you all for now. Happy harvesting, whatever it is you're harvesting. If you're one of our lovely friends in the Southern Hemisphere, happy seed sowing, happy planting. Oh, so exciting, isn't it? Until next time, lovelies, please look after yourselves and your plants and the wildlife and your soil. Just look after it all, but especially you. Cheerio.